super one. In this lesson again, we're going to focus on the speaking test part 2 and part 3. Now, what is this topic? Describe a person who impressed you most when you were in primary school. A little different topic, right? So, describe a person who impressed you most when you were in primary school. The cue card, right? Now, this is not a very, prominent or a topic that comes up quite often, right? You should say who he or she is. Now, I would say rather who he or she was, because describe a person who impressed you. So, this is in the past. So, in this one, you should tell me who he or she was, right? How you knew him or her, why he or she impressed you the most, and how you feel about him or her, right? Who he or she is, because maybe they're still living also sometimes, then you could say is, but rather, who that person was during that time, okay? But also you could use is why, this person is this person. You could say, this person is my father. I was really impressed. You could use that. That's okay, right? So, what do you need to remember here? That again, you have 1 minute to prepare and you need to speak 1 to 2 minutes, right? So, as I always tell you, you need to speak close upon 2 minutes. So, if I was you, I would first plan it. As always, jot down some bullet points for each of these headings, right? So, who he or she was, right? Describe a person who impressed you the most when you were in primary school. I would say it was my English teacher or maths teacher, okay? So, I would just say math teacher. How you knew him or her, so she was my school teacher, school subject teacher. Why he or she impressed you the most, personal traits. Subject knowledge. Easy methods to explain. Okay. And then how you feel about him or her, probably happy. Now, I've just written this, okay, in this angle, but obviously you would have to put down your points, okay? So, you can jot down your own points. This is just for me to refer while I'm speaking. Now, I would like to talk about a person who impressed me the most when I was in primary school. So, this person was my maths teacher named Mrs. Sheshandri, right? Or let's say, I can just make up a name, okay? So, my maths teacher who was named Mrs. Pereira. Well, how I knew her was basically she was our subject teacher for mathematics. So, she was there for us for grade 1, 2, 3, 4 as well as 5. Now, what impressed me most about her was that Mrs. Pereira by nature was a very kind-hearted person. She was enthusiastic and energetic whenever she walked into the class. And she wore this sari really nicely. So she used to wear the Indian draped style sari. And I remember as a kid, she never repeated a sari ever in the whole semester that she taught us. So that was something I really loved. Now, talking about why she impressed me the most was her personal traits. Unlike most other people that I knew that age, she was a bit different. She was one of those active people who was someone who was passionate about her job. She came to class every day, and no matter what she had at home, I'm sure, she was always bubbly in class. she was willing to listen to the kids, and she always made them believe that they were really good in maths. So even the weakest student in class, I remember, was a very happy, chirpy person when she walked into class, and they all felt, including myself, felt that I could do maths really well. And her subject knowledge was just great, She was able to teach us using these simple methodologies and simple techniques to do the math sums. So even though we were very small at that age, we could remember her techniques so well, and I think I still remember those, and that's what I teach my kids as well. So, how I feel about her, today when I look back and think about her, I feel that she had quite an impressive and different personality, and I'm so happy to be one of her students. That is the answer that you could give. Now, explain each part and make it look like a real story, and someone should be able to listen to you. Now, let's look at a sample answer. This is a really interesting question. I can never forget this person in my lifetime. Nice way to start. The person who impressed me the most when I was a child was the support staff in my school. His name was Singh. Coincidentally, his son was my classmate and a good friend of mine. I knew Uncle Singh more as my friend's father rather than the peon of my school. Okay? Now, talking a bit about why he or she impressed you the most. Uncle Singh impressed me due to many reasons. First of all, he was a very simple man and had a very pleasant personality. Okay? And he was a very pleasant persona, means person. Okay? He would greet all children with joy and had a $1 million smile. I like this word, $1 million smile. The best thing about him was that he worked hard to provide the best education to his children. He used to do odd jobs so that he could support his family in the best way. So the reasons, I love this, nicely coming up with a few reasons, all right? How you feel about him or her? I always looked upon him. Looked upon means you felt good. You always thought, oh, he's a nice, good person, okay? Looked upon him with lots of respect and admiration, okay? Some people would say admiration. Go for it. He was the best father to his children. I also visited his home often to play with my friend. I used to. Nice one. Used to. Used to means something that you did before but you don't do it now. So I used to visit him. I used to go out to play cricket. I used to have drinks with my friends. Used to. It was a practice in the past, but you no longer do it now, okay? I used to feel inspired by Uncle Singh for his commitment to his family. He was my role model and unknowingly he taught me a lot. Today, if I'm a responsible person, it is a lot because of him. Today, he's a proud father and his children are so proud of him. I'm still in touch with him. I feel fortunate that I could come across such a person who taught me the real values of life. This person did not allow the difficult financial situation to come in the way of his children. Instead, he toiled to make their dream come true. Toiled means worked very hard, okay? He lives for others. That is the most impressive part of him, okay? So, he lives for others. That is the most impressive thing in him, okay? So, this is how he or she feels about Mr. Singh. Now, let's look at model answer 2. But before that, I want to go and have a look at model answer 1 Now you should say who it is. I think that was done. Spoke about Mr. Singh, how you knew him. I mean, he was a peon at school, but his son was also the student's batchmate, friends, classmates. Why he or she impressed you the most? With his traits and how he did things and how he nurtured and cared for his family, okay? How you feel about him or her, so you still look up for the person and you're happy that you actually met this kind of person, okay? So I think the student did touch on all 4 points, which was a really good answer as well, okay? Let's have a look at the second model answer. I was considered a very naughty kid in my childhood. I was intelligent, but I used to never study at home. In fact, I would spend all my day playing sports or video games. Aha! So my mother made me join extra classes after school with a home tutor nearby. Her name was Mrs. Bamba. Okay? She is the person who impressed me the most during my childhood. In fact, nice linker, I believe it is because of her that I might be able to fulfill my dream of going abroad. Okay, I believe. First, she developed my interest in studies. Before her, I used to consider studies as a oh, gosh, no. I only studied before exams. Rather than asking me to memorize things, she made me understand the concept behind things. The teachers at my school were also good, but due to the burden of covering the vast syllabus and shortage of time, they found it hard to cover everything in detail. Right, so moving on, she covered everything in detail. But studies were not the only reason why she left such a big imprint on me. So now the student is explaining more as to why he or she was impressed with this person. Okay? I learned many of life's valuable lessons from her in my childhood. So she taught me the importance of humility, punctuality, and industrious. Okay, what do you mean by industrious? Diligence. Okay. Even if I was late by 5 minutes, I was not allowed to attend the class, which is a good thing. You teach students to be punctual. In India, where being a few minutes late is on time, I am actually early for every appointment. I think that is quite important. Even in Sri Lanka, you could bring up that example. Being late is quite fashionable and it's kind of in our culture. But, some people don't really practice that culture and they want to be on time. So they're actually early for interviews or they're early for meetings. And then you wait for everyone else. Could be really frustrating. Okay. So I've had some companies that I've worked for. You sit down and you wait and you wait and you wait till your boss actually turns up and goes, hello, good afternoon. And you feel like, oh my God, right? But I've also worked with some people who come in and they're right on time and they're like, good afternoon, shall we straight away get into the meeting. So that makes you feel really good and it's also a good practice, okay? So another thing that I liked about her was that though she was strict, she was also very friendly to talk to, okay? So the student actually talks about his or her personality traits and why he or she likes this teacher very much. So it was not mainly because of the subject matter, but it was mainly for the other facts as well around her, like being a good teacher, teaching them different values, and also making sure that she was friendly and that students could talk to her as well. Okay? Now, she was more than a teacher to me in this regard. I shared all my problems with her and she would always patiently listen. And instead of providing solutions, she would ask me to think about the best action in that scenario. So you train children to take responsibility for their actions, right? Because of this, I am independent today and I am confident of taking decisions without second guessing myself. Okay, so that means without any other thought, you're able to take decisions and you're confident and you're independent. Okay, so the student completely talks about this whole process of why he or she impressed you the most. Okay, and how you feel about him or her, and the conclusion, I have the utmost respect for her. Nice word, utmost respect. And along with that, there is a feeling of guilt because I would never be able to pay her back for all that she did for me, or all that she has done for me. I would say all that she has done for me would be better. Okay? So, I think again, this answer has quite a lot covered in it. If you take this answer, okay, it was able to cover who she was, right, who she is, and how you knew her, why she impressed you the most, and how you feel about her. Now, that is what is important, right? Always making sure that you cover the topics. That is what is really, really important. Not just running through it, okay? Not just saying anything for 2 minutes. So what you should remember is when you're doing these kind of questions, always do what? Exactly, record it. Record it and listen. So have a little recorder, keep on recording and listen to yourself. If you feel no, you've gone a bit out of the context, go back and do the card again, okay? And then re-listen to yourself and think, okay, have I got good vocab? Okay, I've got some grammar in good, right? Take the marking criteria out and see, have I got these things? Have I got the necessary points covered which I need for a 6 or a 7? And then you can move into part 3, okay? Practice is what makes you perfect, so that is important. Now, we are going to have a look at some part 3 questions. Now, remember, I have told you part 3 is kind of like a continuation, or rather related topics that they discuss around part 2. So, for this one, what was your card? Okay, you've got to talk about a person who impressed you the most when you were in primary school. So this is now not going to talk about handwriting or newspapers, right? But going to talk more about people impressing you and people who have impressed you, related topics around impressing people, okay? So let's have a look at some probable questions. Why do people always miss their childhood? Now, this could be for different reasons. I mean, when we were kids, we had such carefree, lifestyle. And as you become an adult, it's more responsible. So I think every human being, as they grow up, they feel that they miss their childhood, right? Because they feel that freedom is no more. And when you're a child, everything is done for you. I mean, in Sri Lankan context, our parents do everything for us. But as you grow up, the level of independence becomes more and more, and your parents don't support you anymore. So letting go of that can be a bit stressful. So I think that is another reason. I think it's because that is the only time when you are free of worries, tensions and stress. Quite true, right? We know that our parents would take care of any problem we face. It is also because after childhood, we are never able to spend much time with our family again, right? So I feel that as well. As we were kids, we spent so much of time with our family. But as we've grown up now and, I stay separately, so I need to go and visit them. And with my kids, I sometimes don't have much time. So, you miss that childhood time, sitting down and talking to your parents, having that little chit chat. When that is no more, sometimes you feel going back in time. Are kids happier than adults? Well, personally, I believe kids are much happier because they don't think about anything. They don't have to think about anything. They're quite honest, right? And we say that kids are like little flowers, They bloom and they are always, happy-go-lucky kind of people. So I really like it. And I also feel that kids don't have responsibility. They don't have stress. They don't have to earn. So they're in their own little world of toys and things and creativity and imagination that I do believe they're much happier than adults. Let's have a look at an answer. Yes, I believe most people are happier during their childhood, and it's because of the same reason. They don't have to face responsibilities and stress of adult life. So it's the same kind of answer that I also give. Why do people still remember many of their friends from primary school? Well, I think it is because that when we're in primary school, we spend so much time with the same bunch of friends. And when we go to secondary and high school, we get new friends, and some people move out of school and they go to a different school. But primary education, most of the time, we spend most of our time with the same set of friends or same bunch of friends, right? So here you've got kind of the same thing, okay? So it's because, you spend time and you spend along with them and you never spend outside. You don't have much friends outside school. It's always that you have the same school friends. So that could be a reason. All right. And the last question. All right. So I think with this was the last question. We've come to the end of the lesson, right? Now, having a look at this, today's lesson was mainly focusing on part 2 and part 3. Now, as I told you, part 2 is a timed part of your exam, okay? You get 1 minute to prepare and you need to speak 1 to 2 minutes. So timing becomes very important for you, and within that time frame, try to cover all the points in your cue card. There's no need to rush, but you can nicely explain. Take your time. Make sure to use vocabulary and sentence structures to show the examiner that you understand what is there in your cue card. Moving on into part 3, try to elaborate more and try to explain more using personalized or generalized examples, right? And explain more and show the examiner that fluency is something that you have naturally and you're able to speak well in English. So with that, we come to the end of the lesson. Describe a person who impressed you the most when you were in primary school.